There are moments in life when a person feels as if the world has gone quiet around them, as though all the colors have faded and the joy they once carried has slipped away without warning. For Ayaan, this feeling had become familiar. He was 34 years old, with a degree, a decent job, and an apartment that looked like a guest house no one ever visited. If someone asked him what he wanted from life, he wouldn't have known what to say. Not because he lacked dreams, but because life had taught him to shrink them, hide them, and eventually forget them. Every morning, he walked to work with the same routine, same streets, same bus, same tired expression in the glass windows he passed. People saw him, of course they did, but no one really noticed him. And maybe, deep down, he didn't notice himself either. But life has a strange way of waking a person up, often through someone they never expect. That someone was Hiba. She was everything he was not: bright, expressive, full of determination that made even ordinary moments feel extraordinary. She joined the company as a designer 2 months after Ayaan had been promoted to team lead. The first time he saw her, she was standing near the entrance, holding a laptop bag and looking around with eyes that carried both curiosity and courage. Her presence felt like a sudden breeze in a room that had been shut for years. They didn't talk much at first. Ayaan kept his distance not because he disliked her, but because he didn't know how to step outside the walls he had built around himself. Hiba, on the other hand, was gentle but fearless when she needed answers. She asked questions, shared ideas, and challenged things that didn't make sense. Gradually, her laughter began to echo in the office halls, and even the dullest employees seemed more awake around her. One afternoon, after a long meeting, Ayaan was collecting papers when he heard her say softly, "Sir, can I ask something?" He turned. "You don't have to call me sir. Just Ayaan is fine." "Okay, Ayaan," she said, smiling in a way that made him feel like someone had opened a window inside his chest. "You work so quietly. Do you actually like your job?" It was the kind of question no colleague had ever dared to ask him. Yes," he replied, but even he didn't believe his answer. Hiba didn't press further. She just nodded and said, "You're good at what you do, but sometimes it feels like you're carrying a heavy weight even when you don't need to. I hope one day you put it down." Her words lingered with him long after she walked away. Over the next few weeks, Hiba's presence blended into his life like sunlight entering a dim room. She would share small snacks during breaks, ask him to review her designs, or tell him stories about her struggles before getting this job, how she was rejected 5 times, how she kept working on her skills until she got here, and how she refused to give up because she had promised herself a better life. "What about you?" she asked one day. "Did you ever fight for something the way I fight for my dreams?" Ayaan hesitated. He wanted to say yes, but the truth felt heavier. "I used to," he said quietly. "Before life convinced me I wasn't meant for anything extraordinary." Hiba looked at him with surprising softness. "Maybe life didn't say that. Maybe you just stopped listening to yourself." That night, Ayaan couldn't sleep. For the first time in years, he thought about the dreams he had buried: his old goal of becoming a writer, his love for storytelling, the notebook he once filled with ideas but never dared to show anyone. He remembered how inspired he used to feel when he wrote, and how terrified he became after a teacher told him his work was good, but not special. He had accepted that judgment like a verdict and never tried again. The next day, on his way to work, he bought a notebook. He didn't know why, maybe because Hiba's voice echoed in his mind, or maybe because something inside him was finally waking up. He didn't write anything in it yet, but the mere act of carrying it felt like holding a forgotten part of himself. Days passed, and Ayaan and Hiba grew closer in ways neither of them fully acknowledged. It wasn't romance yet, it was connection. A slow, steady warmth that felt more real than anything he'd felt in years. Until the day everything shifted. One evening, the company announced a competition for employees: present a creative project that could improve our brand. The winner would receive a bonus and lead a new creative wing. Everyone was excited except Ayaan. He knew such competitions required confidence, boldness, and belief in one's ideas, all of which he lacked. But Hiba saw something else. "You should participate," she told him. "I'm not creative." "You right," she said simply. His heart skipped. "How do you know?" "You carry a notebook, Ayaan. And you stare at blank pages like someone who wants to fill them but is scared to try." He laughed nervously. "Maybe." "No," she said calmly. "I think writing is your real voice. You should use it." He wanted to protest but stopped when he saw the sincerity in her eyes. It had been so long since anyone believed in him. Maybe that was why he finally said, "Okay. I'll try." That night, he sat at his desk staring at the blank page. The silence in his apartment felt different, not oppressive this time, but expectant. Slowly, he began to write. The words were rusty at first, shaky like a bird learning to fly. But as minutes turned into hours, something beautiful happened. The fear began to fade. He wrote about passion, creativity, and the power of storytelling in branding. He crafted an entire proposal with narrative elements, emotional appeal, and a human-centered approach. By the time he finished, it was past 3 a.m. and he felt exhausted but alive. The next day, he showed the draft to Hiba. As she read it, he watched her face carefully, terrified she might say something that would break him again. But when she finished, she looked at him like she was discovering him for the first time. "Ayaan, this is brilliant." The warmth in her voice made his eyes sting. "You really think so?" "I know so." Encouraged, he submitted the proposal. The following week, the presentations began. Some participants brought flashy designs, videos, and marketing tricks. Ayaan stood on stage with nothing but his voice and his story. He didn't shout. He didn't try to impress. He simply spoke from the heart. When he finished, the room was silent for a moment, then applause slowly rose and filled the hall. Hiba was the first to stand. 2 days later, the results were announced. Ayaan won. His team cheered. His manager patted his back. And Hiba, she looked at him like she always knew he could do it. That evening, they walked out of the office together. The sky was turning golden as the sun dipped behind the buildings. Ayaan felt something shift inside him, something that felt like courage wrapped in gratitude. "Hiba," he said softly. "Thank you. You changed something in me." "No," she smiled. "You changed yourself. I just reminded you of who you were." He looked at her for a long moment. "Still. I'm grateful." She didn't reply. Instead, she took a slow breath and said, "Ayaan, can I tell you something?" "Of course." She hesitated, then finally admitted, "I've been fighting my own battles too. People think I'm confident, but I struggle, a lot. Sometimes I pretend to be strong because if I don't, I'll fall apart." He softened. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because you always looked like you were carrying more pain than me. I didn't want to add mine to yours." Without thinking, he gently said, "You can share it with me." You don't have to fight alone. Her eyes glistened. Maybe I don't. Something unspoken passed between them, a quiet understanding born from vulnerability. And just like that, a new chapter began. Over the next few months, their bond deepened. They talked about dreams, fears, and the lives they wanted to build. They sat in cafes discussing projects. They walked in parks, sharing stories they had never told anyone else. Ayaan wrote more frequently, and Hiba encouraged him endlessly. She began preparing her own portfolio for a big design scholarship, and he supported her with equal passion. Their growth wasn't just personal, it was tied to each other, like vines supporting one another as they climbed toward light. One evening, while working late on a project, Ayaan found Hiba sitting silently at her desk, staring at her laptop with trembling fingers. "What's wrong?" he asked. She looked up, her voice breaking. "I didn't get the scholarship." He felt his heart drop. "Hiba. I'm so sorry." She closed her eyes tightly. "I worked so hard. I thought this was my chance. Maybe I'm not good enough." Ayaan sat beside her and gently said, "You are more than good enough. This isn't the end, it's just a step. That's easy to say. I'm not saying it to comfort you. I'm saying it because I believe it. And because failure doesn't define you. How you rise from it does." She leaned into him, her forehead resting against his shoulder. It was the first time she let herself collapse in front of him. He wrapped his arm around her, holding her as she cried softly, a moment of pure, unfiltered trust. When she finally pulled away, she whispered, "Thank you." "For what?" "For being the one person who doesn't walk away when things go wrong." He smiled. "I'm not going anywhere." And he meant it. As time passed, their feelings grew into something deeper, something neither could deny. Yet neither confessed, afraid that naming it might break the delicate, beautiful balance they shared. But life, once again, intervened. One rainy evening, they got stuck at the office due to a sudden storm. The city was flooded, the roads blocked, and the power flickering. They sat near the window, watching raindrops strike the glass. "It's beautiful," Hiba whispered. "Yeah," he replied, but he was looking at her, not the rain. She noticed. "Why are you staring?" He hesitated, then finally said the words he had carried for months, "Hiba. I think I've been falling for you for a long time." She froze, shocked, breath catching. Ayaan continued before fear stopped him, "You are the reason I found myself again. You're the reason I wake up excited for the day. You made me believe I could dream again. And somewhere in all of that, I lost my heart to you." Her eyes softened, filling with emotion. She took a shaky breath. "Ayaan. I was afraid to say it first, but I've fallen for you too." The world outside thundered, but inside, everything went quiet, peaceful. He reached for her hand. She didn't pull away. Their fingers intertwined naturally, like they had always been meant to fit. That night wasn't dramatic or loud. It was simple, honest, real, exactly how love should be. Over the next year, their journey blossomed beautifully. Hiba applied for more opportunities, and Ayaan kept writing, eventually publishing his first short story online, which went viral. They celebrated each other's wins, supported each other's struggles, and built a life around kindness, growth, and love. One evening, on the same path where they had walked after his competition victory, Ayaan stopped and gently held her hand. "Hiba," he said, voice trembling with emotion, you entered my life like light entering darkness. You didn't just help me dream, you helped me live. And I want to spend the rest of my life being your strength the way you've been mine. Her eyes filled instantly. Ayaan. He knelt, pulling a small ring from his pocket. Will you marry me? Tears streamed down her cheeks, but she was smiling, radiant, joyful, full of everything she had always been. Yes, she whispered, 1,000 times, yes. People walked past them, some smiling knowingly, but to Ayaan and Hiba, the world had narrowed to that single moment, the moment when love became a promise. And so their story continued, not perfect, not easy, but beautifully human. Full of growth, healing, courage, and a kind of love that doesn't rescue a person, but instead helps them rescue themselves. Because sometimes, all a person needs is one soul who sees them not as broken or ordinary but as someone capable of rising, shining, and loving again. And that person, for Ayaan, was Hiba. And for Hiba, it was always Ayaan.